I have come to set the earth on fire. And if we pick up the newspapers, if we watch the news on the television, if we meander through the news sites online, we can see that the earth is truly on fire. All over the world, there are tremendous problems as anger lashes out, as fear takes hold, as hatred reigns and rules. And so, yes, the earth is on fire. We have Jesus, the pyromaniac, Jesus, the firefighter, Jesus, the great lover, Jesus, the greatest and grandest of loves. This passage from Luke's Gospel is intended, we think, by Luke to indicate that some tremendous change is taking place or has taken place in the world because Jesus himself, the Son of God, is present in the world. This whole thing about division within the family would have absolutely rocked the Jewish culture and faith to its core. Because family, absolutely so essential to the Jewish faith and society and culture, they could not imagine that the family would be torn asunder with all this discord, with this division, with this hatred and anger. And I would hope that we as Christians, having inherited so much of this Jewish culture and faith, would feel the same way about our own families and about the family of the church. It cannot, it should not be ripped asunder by division, by hatred, by anger, by fear. Jesus was inviting his disciples into something so incredibly new and different, but as well something that was so closely associated with God's love from the past. God's eternal love, making itself felt and present here and now, in the present. Jesus has come to set our hearts ablaze with the love that is himself, with the mercy and the compassion that he is as an instrument of God, God himself being present to each and every one of us and to all of us as a whole, the body of Christ, so that he is present to the world through us. And we witness the world ablaze, sometimes without even realizing it. One night this past week, I went over to the hospital for an emergency, and while I was there, I stopped right down the hall to visit with one of our parishioners, Antonio Hernandez. Antonio was there because of problems with his heart. And as we visited and prayed together and celebrated the sacrament of the sick, his wife there with him, this was quite late in the evening, friends, relatives there with him. I asked what the doctors had said. He said, I think I'm going home tomorrow. And it has to be tomorrow, Father. I said, why? Because I'm cooking for men who cook. I have to be there. I said, Antonio, that can wait. No, Father, it's important to the parish. The world set on fire by a man lying in his hospital bed and really far too sick to get up and come here to cook, but determined to do so. He did get out of the hospital the next day. Unfortunately, he could not cook the food, the meal that he had planned, but he was here in his wheelchair to eat with us, absolutely convinced that the place he needed to be was here in his home at St. Paul's. It was a wonderful evening, made even better by Antonio's presence. And yesterday afternoon, for 5 o'clock Mass, I was standing out in the narthex because Father Jim Bradley was presiding. He had no deacon to assist him. And I thought, I'm really curious, what is he going to do with the gospel? How is he going to handle that? And those of you who have been at Mass when Father Jim presides, you already know how I have not been. It was absolutely incredible to watch. As Myra Bank, his liturgical assistant, brought him over in front of this altar in his wheelchair, she brought to him the book of the Gospels as the altar servers came and stood with candles on either side of his chair. And he proclaimed that gospel that we just heard. And Heidi and I were standing there watching this happen, and she turned to me and she said, "That's the gospel." Father Jim, some 30 years ago, a severe stroke, years and years of therapy and recuperation, and this tremendous desire of his for the good of the church to proclaim the gospel and preach the word, to celebrate the Eucharist with all the energy in his body and that his body can muster. He does a tremendous job of it. An example for the rest of us. And as I say all of that, I'm thinking about the miracles that take place in this parish quite regularly, and one of them is over in the choir, Maite, who also suffered a severe stroke, but is here to sing her praises to God. Because the fire that Jesus set on the earth is burning brightly. And just like firefighters who are battling a forest fire, an evil, we have to establish our own fire line. We have to counter that fire that burns in the world by producing another flame, another fire, that is absolutely more powerful, more loving, more life-giving, more purifying. And as we do that, in the little ways that we do every day, all day, in the great ways we do every now and then when we step forward, called by God to be instruments of his love and his grace, then the fire that Jesus set is truly ablaze and truly working its wonders and its miracles so that the world, all of the world, will eventually be purified to praise the glory and the goodness that is God. I have come to set the earth on fire. Already, Jesus has accomplished his goal, his mission. We, working together, see that goal and that mission completed in our time at God's command through our hands, which are the hands today of Jesus the Christ.